Welcome back to yet another From Screen to Shelf video. I am Mr. Wallabully Extraordinaire, aka Chase, here to take you on a deep dive into Tubi and give you 10 titles that I recommend that are streaming right now completely free. Don't even need to sign up for an account. Let's take a dive. Alright guys, so these aren't things that just necessarily dropped on Tubi. Some of these have been on there for a while, even some things that I probably took a look at months ago, maybe even well over a year ago. But without further ado, these are also not in any particular order. Like, these aren't like, hey, this is the highest priority. I might say that there's some that I recommend more so than others, but these are just 10 titles that could have just dropped or have been on there for a while that I personally really like and had a lot of fun with. So without further ado, the very first one I am going to give a shout out to is going to be Malcolm Ingram's Clerk. It's not the absolute best documentary. It's not something that's gonna wow you or give you a bunch of insight into Kevin Smith and his world of Clerks, more so than you probably already know if you're a Kevin Smith fan like I am. But it definitely chronicles his journey as being a child into making Clerks, how it ended up becoming a thing, and it even goes into some of his other movies. It doesn't only cover the Clerks duology. Unfortunately, this one did come out before Clerks 3. I think that would have been an awesome addition just to see how he felt, because if you didn't know, Kevin Smith really had an epiphany where, thank God he's still with us, but he had a heart attack and then he just felt like he needed to make Clerks 3. So I felt like that would have been a really awesome piece to put into this movie that didn't really get a nod. But nonetheless, it takes you along a journey of Clerks, Kevin Smith, and all of his other movies, including Jersey Girl, including Mallrats, and I believe it even goes into Tusk if memory serves me right. But I can't recommend that particular movie enough. This documentary did come out in 2021, and it's just fun. If you're a Kevin Smith fan, yeah, I mean, I'm a huge Kevin Smith fan. If you listen to Fat Man Beyond, any of his other things, Smodcast, stuff like that, that's always a really good way to get into the mind of Kevin Smith, see what he's doing on a daily basis. But to see his life chronicled in a documentary, you can't really beat it. So that's going to be my first recommendation on this list. And yeah, give it a check out because it's streaming completely free on Tubi. The next one that I'm going to recommend for you is actually one that I know some people really like myself, and others that just really find it a passive watch at best and nothing really to get the feathers ruffled, really. But that's going to be Hellfest by Gregory Plotskin, if I'm saying that right. This is I believe it was like mid-2010s, maybe 2016, 17, maybe even a little bit later, horror movie. And I had a lot of fun with this. I went and saw it in theaters, and I even have the 4K for this movie. I like the movie so much. Again, streaming completely free on Tubi, but it's essentially about this group of friends that go into like an amusement park, kind of carnival type of situation, and they have to sign these waivers because like it's a hands-on type of like scare fest and stuff like that. So they have to sign these waivers, and once they get past the point of signing these waivers, they run into a killer. And since the fear is so high and a lot of people are kind of getting into it, nobody's taking them seriously. And is it great? No, it's not a 9 out of 10 or a 10 out of 10. It's just a really fun time. I found it to be a little bit different from slashers that were coming out around that time, and I found it to have kind of a somewhat of a unique premise in that regard, and I just had a lot of fun with it all together. So I'm definitely going to throw Hellfest out there, and yeah, shout out to the 4K, because the 4K also looks really good. So if you end up streaming it, definitely get your hands on the 4K. I believe you can find that on sale for pretty cheap if you end up liking this movie quite a bit. But yeah, if you've already seen Hellfest, let me know what you think, because I know a lot of people are pretty 50-50. Let me know in the comments below how you feel about Hellfest, because I'm actually rather a pretty solid fan of that movie. Kind of wish we would have gotten a second one or something in that realm or that world, because I think they had something really good and decent going on with this one. So that's going to be my number 2 pick on this particular order. And now we are going to go into one I love, 1976's The Town That Dreaded Sundown. This one's actually going to be a little bit of a two-piece, only because you have the 1976 Charles B. Pierce's Town That Dreaded Sundown, and then you also have the 2014 remake, or it's not really a remake, it's kind of a direct sequel. It's kind of one of those requel type of situations that you hear about a lot since Screams came around. But we're going to dive into 1976 first. I love this movie. It's damn near a masterpiece. It's absolutely solid from front to back. It chronicles, I believe it was in the 1940s, the Texarkana murders, and I believe he was dubbed the Phantom Killer. At least that's how he's dubbed in the movie. I don't know if that's actually how it transpired in real life. But the Phantom Killer goes around and kind of does killer things, and it's really unique. This is actually the inspiration that you get for Baghead Jason from Friday the 13th Part 2, and it kinda is like a little documentary, right? So it chronicles like how the town is taking it, and like, I don't know, depending on the quality and outside of some bits and parts, you probably could have passed that as a little documentary about the murders itself. But yeah, it was really, really solid, really, really good. Like I said, damn near masterpiece in that category of things. It took what Texas Chainsaw Massacre had set a foundation for coming off documentary-esque and having that more art house feel, having that art house and grindhouse feel to it, and really mastering it. I do genuinely believe, and I will stand by that this is a very, very, very good movie. I actually watched this for the first time probably about 7-8 months ago on impulse, and it was a great time. Even if slashers really aren't your thing, the entire atmosphere that that Mr. Pierce presents to you in this world is just flawless from front to back. So without further ado, we're going to get into 2014's The Town That Dreaded Sundown. 2014's The Town That Dreaded Sundown is one of the best requels, like I was saying earlier, that you'll ever see. I believe it's by Alex Gomez, if I'm remembering that right. But this isn't really spoilers, but it's a direct continuation, not in that time frame, but a direct continuation in regards to a time jump where everything from the first movie is directly inspiring what happens in this one. So the way that it's presented, and this is the most I'll kind of say to capture your attention, is they used the first movie as like a documentary, just because, like I said, like it's documentary-esque. They used that as a documentary to show around town and stuff, to kind of like show the landscape and everything that had happened. It's almost as if it's like a like a documentary that they're just broadcasting to the town and really just showcasing it. Hey, this is what happened. Here's like this documentary, and it's freaking cool. I've very rarely, if ever, have seen something utilized that way by almost 40 years later, trying to continue a story. So absolutely great. One of my favorite horror movies of the 2010s. It's a masterclass in its genre. It's really good. The voice that they give the Phantom Killer in this one is just absolutely unreal. So that's going to be that recommendation, a good two-piece and a great back-to-back. And I will add, it doesn't matter the order that you watch this. I had originally seen 2014's The Town That Dreaded Sundown, then went back and watched 1976. So either way that you watch it, if you want to go original and then the newer one, you can't miss either way. If you want to go newer one, then original, that's how I did it, and I had an absolute amazing time. These are now going to be annual Halloween rewatches that I really hope get a remaster in 4K, including the 2014 one, because they're just super solid, damn near masterpieces in their category and genres respectively. So the next one I'm going to throw your way is going to be one that's near and dear to me, that is just a visual eye candy fest. There's very little story to this one. It's just one of those ones that you go along for the ride. But this is going to be I believe it's 81 or 82, Tobe Hooper's cult classic Life Force. I love this movie. Space vampires, sexy space vampires at that. This was one of his first bigger budget blockbusters. Unfortunately, it didn't do well, but it's been getting a huge second wind. I'm able to strike up conversations with people that have seen this movie more often than I have really other things. But even take a look at that poster art. It's awesome. Oh God. I watch it a couple of times every year. I'm a massive Tobe Hooper fan, and it's just a really, really good time. It's just essentially they go to space, vampires end up kind of coming back with them. It's not your typical type of vampire situation, but the set pieces, especially in the third act, just really, really, really captivate you. And I can't recommend that movie enough, and that's why it made this list. To kind of get away from the horror, because I have recommended a lot of that because I am a massive horror and sci-fi buff. That's why Life Force made this list. But I have to recommend probably one of the goofier movies I've ever seen, and that's going to be Return of the Killer Tomatoes. That movie is just goofy. I am not a fan of the original Attack of the Killer Tomatoes, but I definitely am a fan of this particular one. It is actually one of George Clooney's earlier roles. How do you say this? This would have to be one of the earlier examples of a great satire that's just done in the goofiest way possible. So every single thing in there is a joke. Nobody's taking it seriously. It's shot relatively well. Like there's even a scene where they're kind of talking about it, and then they're just trying to get everything going, and then the director cuts and says, "Hey, we're out of budget." You know what I mean? Like if that gives you like an idea of what you're getting into. This one's been getting a lot of love, more so recently than other movies on this list. It's been getting a massive second wind, and I'm really glad to be seeing it get the love, and I really hope that we do get a newly remastered physical media release, because that movie, like I said, has just been getting a huge cult classic second wind, and I'm super happy and I'm here for it because it's just a goofy fun time. Because like I said, I was not a fan of Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. Respect to the fans that do like the first one. It's just the second one just hit every chord for me. It's just really good. I watched it for the first time a few years ago and just had an absolute blast with it. So give that one a check out if you just want to turn your brain off and just have some giggles and laughs, because that's definitely what you're going to get out of this entry on this list. And the next entry on this list is actually pretty well known. If you haven't heard of this one, that's perfectly fine. That's why I'm here to let you know it exists and is streaming free on Tubi. That's going to be the 1950s classic Forbidden Planet. This is one of Fred Wilcox's movies, and it's also one of Leslie Nielsen's first roles, or earliest roles. I wouldn't say first. I just know it's one of his earliest roles. He's almost unrecognizable in this movie, but he's great in it nonetheless. The set pieces, the design, the costume designs, everything like that. There's a reason why it's a sci-fi cult classic, or just classic in general. Everything about it hits every single sci-fi trope. It gives you every twist and turn that you expect out of a great sci-fi movie. Especially, I don't know why the robot's name is escaping me, but I mean, he's damn near an icon at this point. So had a great time with this one, and that poster art just looks awesome. It's just really something I really do hope that gets a 4K, because I think it's something that really, really could use that restoration and love, because I know I'd be buying that day one. But yeah, Forbidden Planet, give it a check out. It's a great movie, very solid, and will help you. This movie definitely, at least in my eyes and perception, helped shape sci-fi movies for what they became around that era. You wouldn't have gotten a lot of movies without Forbidden Planet in that category, shaped the way that they are, the way that they tell the story, and the way that the set designs are. I believe it really highly upped the ante. I went through a huge 1950s sci-fi bender at one point, and you can definitely tell once that movie came out that there were a lot of things that were trying to do what it did, and there's some that did, that succeeded. But this one definitely stands on its own and stands the test of time, so definitely give that one a check out. And this next one, I actually really, really like this. I didn't actually discover it on Tubi. I blind bought it on one of Scream Factory's sales probably a year or two ago at this point, and I've watched it quite a few times since then because I have such fun with this title. But that's going to be 1980s Saturn III. This stars Kirk Douglas and Farrah Fawcett, and it's essentially Terminator in space. Really good set design, really good. I wouldn't say it has like an amazing story that's gonna like get you going in that category, but the sequences, the action, the practical effects, everything about it, the acting performances, especially you have Farrah Fawcett and Kirk Douglas, you really can't go wrong with that. Kirk Douglas, just to ring some bells, Paths of Glory, Spartacus from Stanley Kubrick. He collaborated with him quite a bit. I love him as an actor. He's one of my favorite actors from that era. He's definitely a little bit older in this, but I don't think that stopped him at all. He really gave it his all in this one, and it's just a really fun time. I really like this movie, and then whenever I was scrolling through a few days ago, I saw it was on there, and I want more people to see that movie because it's a lot of fun. Saturn III, it checks a lot of boxes. If you've been missing a good Terminator movie, haven't been satisfied with the way the Terminator franchise has been going, and you're itching for something even to go way back and kind of get that same atmosphere from the 80s and 90s, this one's definitely going to check that box for you. Especially, look at that. that poster is just so cool. That's what made me blind by it. Really good movie, really fun. It strikes all the chords of a good action sci-fi movie, and it definitely has some horror elements to it as well. I don't believe it's categorized as a horror. I wouldn't categorize it as a horror. I would say it's purely action sci-fi, but it's definitely a really good, really fun time, and that's why it made this list. You should definitely check that one out. And the next one on this list is not really to introduce you to something newer that you may or may not have seen, but it's just to really let you know that it's on Tubi, and I want everybody to see this movie. And it's actually going to be, you can kind of, if I can point it right there, Metropolis. 1927's Metropolis by Fritz Lang. It is considered to be one of the original sci-fi movies. It is a silent film, and the fact that we even still have this movie around today just blows my mind. To give you a little bit of backstory about this movie, and I'm not quite sure, I wasn't able to see if it was, I don't know if this cut I'm about to talk about is the one that's on Tubi, but regardless, you're still going to have a great time. But there actually is a specific cut that Kino Lorber found some of the lost film elements and was able to reconstruct a lot of the missing movie, because I believe there was almost 20, don't quote me on this, 25 minutes of missing footage. And I am so over the moon that I have that Kino Lorber cut on Blu-ray, because Metropolis is just such a good movie. Parts of it very eerie, and I don't think they were trying to go for horror, but just the way that they did some of the costumes can definitely give you some chills up your spine. But it's a great time nonetheless, and I'm really over the moon that it's on Tubi, because a lot more people need to see Fritz Lang's movie. He set out with a vision, and I think that he definitely nailed it in every category. It's one of my personal favorite sci-fi movies. I just had a great time with this particular movie. So definitely check that one out. And again, it's on Tubi, so why not? If you're into trying to going back and seeing what sci-fi roots are, definitely give it a check out, because it's really good. It's essentially, the story is kind of cryptic, but because it's been kind of translated many different ways. Go in blind. I'm not even going to try to give you a plot summary. Go in blind and just see how you take it, because I didn't look up anything about what the movie was about. I went in completely blind, just heard it's essentially one of the earliest sci-fi movies, and I was in immediately. Watched it, got that Kino Lorber cut, had a great time with it. So not going to give you any synopsis. Go in blind. That's the way I'm going to sell that one. This next one is actually a personal favorite of mine, and that's going to be Ty West. I genuinely do believe it's a near masterpiece. 2009 movie House of the Devil. Around the parts, I'm known for being a massive Ty West fan. I love X, I love Pearl, I love The Sacrament, Innkeepers is great. I'm a huge Ty West fan. He doesn't always hit, but he damn near always does. And that's no exception with 2009's House of the Devil. It's shot extremely well. Whenever you turn it on, it might even take you aback whenever I keep saying 2009 for the year that this movie came out, because he intentionally shot it to look like a 1960s, 70s, 80s horror movie. So film grain was added, and I definitely think that adds to the aesthetic. It's a typical slow burn, but this is one of the coolest payoffs I've ever seen at the end of a movie whenever it comes to a slow burn. And whenever I say slow burn, if you're familiar with The Witch, that's definitely one of the ways that I would kind of describe it and kind of tell you what it's about. And in that, you know, it's not like, you know, folk horror. It's definitely House of the Devil, right? You can kind of take a lot about what you're getting into from the title itself. But whenever I compare it to The Witch, I mean in that same slow burn aspect, right? With a good payoff at the end. If I were to take two, I know I'm comparing apples to oranges because they're completely different types of movies. Folk horror versus more like, I don't know, religious horror, I guess you could categorize this as, if that's how you want to box that in there. But I definitely would take House of the Devil over The Witch. House of the Devil just had one of the coolest endings and payoffs that I had seen in a movie in a while whenever I first watched it. Yeah, Ty West, 2009, House of the Devil. And that's going to lead me to this. I know I said this was in no particular order. I am again known for how much I love this movie, and I had no idea until the other day that this was streaming for free on Tubi. But I am known around the parts for being a huge fan. If you have tuned into some of the podcast episodes, I even have a banner of it up where I record the podcast. I am that big of a fan of this movie. Without further ado, that's going to be 2016's Jeremy Gillespie and Steve Kostansky, if I'm saying that right. I think it's genuinely a masterpiece. The Void. The Void is essentially, if you have seen Lucio Fulci's The Beyond, it's essentially a direct homage to that and everything Lovecraftian before that. People are kind of stuck in a little hospital type of environment, and they realize that there is some weird stuff going on. You have some cult members that are trying to manifest some stuff, and then you have people that are just essentially fighting for survival. I know The Beyond is considered to be one of Fulci's masterpieces, but I do think that, especially for modern times, and this being one of their earlier works, they absolutely nailed it, from everything from the score to the atmosphere to everything else in between, and I couldn't be happier with the final product that we got. It was just incredible. I watch it so much. I love this movie. The Void is so good. If you're a horror or even sci-fi fan or a Lovecraftian-esque type of environment fan, you are doing yourself a genuine disservice not checking out this movie. The score, the acting, the ending, everything, the set pieces, the practical effects, what limited CGI and special effects are in it. Just every single thing about The Void is just so good, and I cannot recommend it enough. It's one of those movies that's been gaining a little bit more steam as time goes on. I'm able to talk to more and more people about it as time goes on, but I genuinely cannot recommend this movie enough. It is so, so, so good. I really, really need more people to watch this. If this convinces you to watch The Void, please let me know your thoughts below. If you've already seen it, please let me know your thoughts below. I love talking about this movie. It is just so underrated. I think it's teetering that cult classic type of approach and status. But yeah, I really, really like everything about The Void. It is in my personal top 10 horror movies of all time, and the fact that you can stream it for free, you just can't beat it. You genuinely just can't beat it. So, without further ado, to wrap all of this up, this is my personal top 10. Again, to preface, this is not just a list of things that just dropped. I think some of these just got in the just added category. Not many. Some of these have been on there for quite a while. I watched some of these a while ago. But whenever I was just scrolling through, I figured I'd throw you a top 10 list on what Chase's picks are going to be for this month. And then, depending on how you guys like this, I might try to keep up with what a top 10 on Tubi every month. But I figured I would just try something different, give you my personal taste, and see if we connect that way. So without further ado, to wrap this up again, I wanted to extend a genuine, heartfelt thank you guys for 100+ subscribers. The support has been very overwhelming. It's like I said in my prophecy review, we really thought this would be more or less something for us to just go back, laugh at our own jokes, and then just kind of reminisce on our conversations. So I'm super happy to have every single person that's here for the ride along for the ride. Please like, comment, subscribe, turn on bell notifications, whatever your heart desires. Please let us know if there's anything you'd like to see in the future. If these are things that you like, we encapsulate everything from screen to shelf. We'll do streaming, physical media being our main focus, theatrical releases. We have some really cool under the radar theatrical releases that we have the opportunity to go see that we plan on doing some reviews for very soon. So stay tuned for that content. And as always, thank you guys so much for everything, and stay tuned for more from screen to shelf content. See you soon.